Hello, everyone. This is the Theory of Life podcast. We have Shawn here, and we're going to be talking about veganism. So hopefully I'm going to have some guests on, just some cool people, some cool, thoughtful people to talk about interesting topics and stuff. So we're here going to have a conversation. So it's spring break, so it's a vibe. So anyway. So, Shawn, tell me about your journey with veganism. Actually, I don't even think I actually completely know your actual, not just ask with the podcast, I don't actually know your whole journey.
Like how I became vegan.
Yeah.
Well, starting all the way back at the beginning, so obviously I wasn't raised vegan, but my mom was vegetarian since 18. So, when I was raised, my dad wasn't, my brother wasn't, but my dad cooked meat. He cooks in my house. Mm-hmm. We went out, when I was younger, I ate hamburgers and just regular food. I got pizza for my birthday and but my mom just never ate meat. She ate dairy, eggs, and all that. She just was, I don't know the exact reason she went vegetarian, but she was since she was 18. And I think it was when I was in 8th grade, maybe a little before, I forget exactly when, we were eating my dad never made meat very well, so I never had very good experiences with it. Pork chops, I never liked.
Your dad's gonna watch this podcast. Be like, yo, what?
Well, he knows. But we made pork chops, and I always thought they were gross. Not because it was pig, but just because it just it just tasted weird.
Just tasted
my
weird.
dad tried to make steak once, and it was overcooked. So it's that was my one chance eating steak.
We better not show him this.
No, I've told him.
Your son hates your cooking.
Well, no, just the steak.
Just the meat.
Just the steak.
Yeah.
And so I don't have much to look back on. Oh, I wish I could eat that. So that does help. Yeah. But we were eating frozen salmon fillets, the little rectangular ones you can buy from the store. And I just remember having the thought oh, that was a fish.
Yeah.
And it kind of upset me when I was a lot younger. I think it's in 8th grade. And I just decided that I don't want to eat it, so I didn't eat my dinner. I ate the vegetables and the rice and stuff with it, and I just didn't eat the fish. Yeah. And from then I just didn't eat meat. And
you just decided not to eat meat.
Stopped.
That was a you thing? It wasn't a family thing? It was a you thing?
Yeah, my mom was supportive because she was vegetarian. And so then I was vegetarian for, until 2020. So it was a while. I forget the exact number of years.
Yeah.
So I haven't eaten meat in a very long time.
Okay, that's interesting.
I eventually got to a point where I thought I remember my critical thinking class, I wrote a paper about why you shouldn't eat meat and stuff. But I was only vegetarian, so I never really knew about the dairy industry and all that.
The vegan thing.
My brother, because he studies philosophy, as you know, he studied bachelor's and master's of philosophy, so he had a lot of classes in ethics. Because he eventually went vegetarian too, and then he found veganism, and he realized oh, I don't want to I want to be vegan. And so my mom eventually made the same shift as well. So before I was still vegetarian. Yeah. And I was dating at the time, so with my ex, we went out. I still ate dairy and eggs and all that. And he always pressured me and my brother to go vegan. Yeah. But then being a younger brother, I was if you tell me to do it, I don't want to do it. Yeah. And eventually it was in 2020, when the lockdowns happened, I wasn't able to go out with my ex. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't want to go out because
hopefully she ain't watching this either.
Well, she knows we weren't. We both decided we shouldn't be going out places. Yeah. And that was the time that I realized, you know what? I've been thinking about veganism for a long time. I'm just gonna my house was already turning vegan. My mom and my brother have a lot of control in the house. They kind of made the house turn vegan. And so I just made the mental change. So I was only eating at home. I was pretty much already vegan by force. Yeah. But I just made the decisions you know what? I should just say I'm vegan. I didn't tell anybody. They know now, but I didn't tell anybody then. I just made my own choice, and eventually it came out that I was vegan. And that didn't. It's not that it didn't go well with my ex, but she wasn't vegan or vegetarian. Okay. And so that made it. She had a lot of allergies too, so it made it hard for me to go to a vegan restaurant. Oh, okay. But that didn't work out for other reasons. But still, it's I made that decision back in 2020, and then I kept learning more and more about veganism, researching more things. I didn't have to watch any of those documentaries, with the footage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've watched some of it now, but at this point, what's the point? Why would I need to watch it? I already know.
I never watched the footage stuff. I did once with a friend, and it almost converted him to veganism, but no, I don't. Yeah.
But ever since 2020, it was in March, when the lockdowns started, at least in San Diego and California. I just kind of, it's been 4 years this month now, so.
So if you clarify for the audience, what is the difference between veganism and vegetarianism? I know this is very difficult, like...
I mean, vegetarian is more, some people, I mean, when I was doing it, I was trying to think of it as a moral thing. Yeah. But it's more of, I think of it more as like a diet, because it's just like you don't eat meat, but you're still eating eggs and dairy. Generally.
Oh man, it's a diet. Okay.
I mean, you can think of it morally. I did.
Yeah.
But if you want to think about morally, you need to think about the other stuff.
If you want to be consistent or something.
Yeah, you want to be consistent with everything. Veganism, it's like some people think of vegan as like, oh, I'm going to take the vegan diet, but I consider there's a difference between plant-based, which is the diet, or vegan, which is like the ethical worldview and like the lifestyle that you want to live, of like no animal products as practical as far and practical as possible to take out of your life.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of the vegetarian thing. So I can imagine someone can be a vegetarian for ethical reasons, but not a vegan, right? So I can imagine someone has a problem with consuming like the bodies of animals, but like they don't have a problem necessarily purchasing things that involve the torture of animals or whatever. That sounds kind of crazy coming out of my mouth, but I can kind of see this kind of distinction because there's a lot of like haziness when you buy stuff. You know, it's kind of like, you know, like it's culture and everything. But I think like the act of eating like a body is like kind of disgusting.
I mean,
perhaps not that if you do like that's like you're a bad person, but like anyway.
Yeah, but then drinking milk, it's also drinking like the liquid that.
See, that is true. So you know, I've thought about something. I was like, what if like someone had like a cup of like human blood, like, and imagine I said, you know, it just tasted really good, and I had to drink that cup. It's like, would you drink the cup of human blood? Now maybe blood is different than milk. Right, but like it still comes out of a body. It's still kind of like.
I mean, I consider it depends on how you get the blood, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of similar in that most likely you don't just have somebody willingly giving you a cup of blood because that's not healthy. You just get rid of a cup of blood.
Yeah.
But then you're taking the milk from a cow forcefully, and the things you have to do to make the cow be able to produce the milk. Then the baby gets taken away. There's a lot of like harm that goes into producing the milk that also goes into producing like the cup of blood. Yeah. So in the end, it is very similar. And at least if it's from a person, you can. If they speak your language, you can at least speak to them. I mean, that might be the worst. I don't know. Yeah. But at least then maybe they know what's going on.
Yeah. So if you could, for our wonderful audience here, if you can give some kind of defense for veganism, if someone came up to you and was like, "Hey, Shawn, why should I be a vegan?" What would you tell them?
I mean, it's hard to say because each person has their own like reasons why they don't want to be vegan. Like some people say it's like for the health reasons. Some people don't care about animals whatsoever. Okay. For me, the reason that I want to be vegan is just like I try to see it from like the victim's perspective. Like I believe that like the animals are conscious. They like know what's going on. Maybe they can't speak a language, but they can. Yeah. They see and they smell things that are going on. They have emotions. They have physical like nerves. They can feel things. And so thinking from the victim's perspective, it's like that they get like, it depends if you believe in like reincarnation or heaven or whatever. Yeah. But this is like, if you think about it, like, it's the one life. Mm-hmm. I don't see why I have the moral justification to take away that. Like every chicken has one life. Mm-hmm. And if you take it away, it lasts its life completely for your like 5-10 minute meal. Yeah. And if that makes sense, like I remember hearing a quote, I think I told you about him, Gary Yourofsky. Yeah. He quoted somebody else. I'm quoting somebody. I forget who they were. It's like if animals like formed an organized religion, they would portray like Satan in human form. Now, that's true or not, I mean, there's no way of knowing, but it's like if you think about from the factory farm, who's the one who's doing all the killing is the people. Mm-hmm. So they like if you think about it, being in that position of like seeing everything die, it's just really. Yeah, so I guess at what point would it be permissible to maybe consume animal products or to purchase animal products? Well, purchasing,
there are two different things. Yeah.
I mean, then you can get into like I don't know if there's any, especially like
it's a very difficult question.
Like ASU, we're in the major city. I don't think there is really reason to need if you make it permissible to like buy animal products. It's like. There's ways, like, you can be very healthy and easily being vegan. The reason people buy them is because it's like, they don't want to change. They don't want to have the difficulty having to think about what they eat. Yeah. The biggest difficulty is not necessarily financial, because like tofu's not expensive, beans aren't that expensive.
Tofu is kind of expensive when you get a bunch of it, but like,
well, yeah, if
like
you get a lot of it, but compared to like buying like tons of steaks and stuff, meat is also very expensive.
That's true.
I don't know if there really is like a
especially because like in Tempe, like Arizona, like so I live in South Carolina, and like there's no like there might be like a few vegan things here and there. Like there's this one ice cream place that sells vegan ice cream. But like there's no like vegan opportunities. But like here, there's like tons. And I came here for the first time, and I was like, there's like a whole vegan section in the dining area.
But even like going out, like you don't need to go out to eat. Like if you just cook your own meals, that's more of like a bonus if you have. But I still don't think like, well, my city doesn't have like restaurants that have vegan options.
That's still not.
You can still go to the grocery store and like make your own food. It's just because. I mean, there always will be vegan ways to make things vegan in certain restaurants. Some not, but like you go to a seafood place, maybe.
Yeah.
Not. But.
Yeah. So like, okay, so I was actually rewatching my video on veganism last night, and like, I was thinking about it. After I texted you about doing this podcast, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I had this one point that I made that like no one else makes like in this conversation, and it was kind of like there actually still is kind of an obligation to be a vegan even if your health's kind of at risk. So I gave this this thought experiment, and I want to run it by you. So like it's something like, I mean, imagine I was starving, and like I really needed like some baked beans or something. So like I went into your pantry, stole your baked beans, and I ate them. I love baked beans; they're so good. Yeah. But like clearly that's not like, I mean, it's not a justification for me to like invade your property, right? And steal what you own, right? So like even if my health was at risk, right? So much in the same way, it seems as though like, maybe murdering an animal or paying someone to murder an animal, like that's not a good enough justification, for your own health, because you're taking away the rights of something else, or you're violating the rights of something else.
I mean, I guess like if you're in a situation where like if you're homeless and the only food that the food shelter is giving out is like, like milk or eggs or whatever meat they give out, then in that case it's like, it can be a tricky situation of like, well, should you just say no and then not eat? Yeah. It also depends on where you are. If you like really argue for it, maybe some food banks would try to help you. Like, here's some beans, here's some tofu. They might try to find something for you.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like it depends on how you look at like taking a medicine that might have gelatin.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna die, if you don't take the medicine, you just need to take it.
Yeah.
It depends. Like you could say, like I think the argument you've told before, it's like, well, you want to create the least amount of harm. And if you're not here at all, then you won't create any.
Yeah. We should explore that. That's crazy.
If you think about like the amount of people who are vegan in the world, like those couple percent in like the US.
Yeah.
And then if you just don't take medicine, then there's like one less. If you think of like you also have the ability to like help people at least make more vegan choices.
Yeah.
You have the possibility of having a lot of positive gain as well in the world.
Yeah.
And so if you don't take that medicine, you aren't able to make that positive
influence. That's very interesting.
So like you do have to like help yourself to be able to help other people. So like taking medicine, like I personally, like if I was in a situation like I had something, I need to take this pill or else I'm gonna die, I would take it because I'd rather not die, so I can still like one live, and that is a very selfish thing. And you have to admit like you're choosing yourself over it. Yeah. But then you're also able to continue these conversations that we're having right now to hopefully open the eyes of other people or something. Yeah. Like that.
So here's kind of a question I'm wondering. Like this is gonna get into some meta ethical theories like utilitarianism and all that cool stuff. So I'm wondering. So here's a thought experiment. So imagine somehow by killing one pig, you had the resources to convert everyone to veganism. Like somehow, some weird. This is on the cuff, thought experiment. I don't know, but somehow maybe that you killed the pig and you had all this like power or something that you could convince everyone that veganism was true, and then you would like reduce overall suffering across time. Would it be permissible? This is kind of like the trolley problem, where it's like should you pull the lever and all that stuff? Like, would you kill this pig? It's a very dumb thought experiment, but hopefully you get the.
I get what you're saying. I mean, if you're thinking about just net positive gain, then yes. But you also have to think about the perspective of the pig.
Yeah. And so it's like which one kind of wins out? It's a very difficult question.
Yeah, it's a hard question. I don't know if I could make myself kill a pig just in general.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like if you're thinking about the positive gain, you have to say yes, you would. Because in the end, like, that one pig may lose their life, or you can say about yourself, like, make it more difficult. Would you, like, end your own life to, like, start that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and then there's a further question about, like, should you think about the positive gain, or should you think about the thing that you're killing now? And that's what you were saying a minute ago with put yourself in position of that pig.
Yeah.
Right. So which one should you do? Because like there's kind of this is the classic trolley problem. I mean, like
Well, I mean, if it depends on how that power works too. Like if you make everybody go instantly vegan, then there's all the animals on the farm.
Okay.
Like, but the world, like, it's kind of like similar question of like the desert island thing, where people say, well, if you're on a desert island, would you eat the animals?
Yeah.
Like, but then it gets to the point where it's like, well, what's like the value in those questions when that's never
we talked about that though. Yeah.
Like it's
the
never
practicability.
So like people, like there's the argument against veganism. Like I could just say like, well, if everyone vegan, then it's all the animals in the like we don't have enough room for sanctuaries, all of them. It's like well, yeah, you're right, but that's never going to happen. If the world does go vegan, which I don't know if it will happen or not, but like let's hope it does. It's going to be very slow, and slowly farm animals go less and less until like, okay, it's closed. Let's take the last little bit of animals, put them on a sanctuary. Yeah. And then you don't need to worry about that. It's like you have to think about it also in a realistic way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was thinking because I don't remember what you were talking about before, but like I was kind of responding to a situation that you brought up. It was something about I don't remember what it was, but I think it does seem like this kind of situation could be practical though. It does seem like, you might have to end up, allowing some animal to die or causing them to die in order so that you increase overall well-being. That kind of thing happens, not just with animals, but like in human affairs.
It's like if you're admitting that like the only way for a vegan world is for it to be slow, that means you have to know all those animals that are there right now. It's like, well, I mean, they're there except for those few ones that people go break in and like rescue them out. Mm-hmm. They're going to continue dying as you continue working on making this, and who knows how long it'll take until there's a vegan world. So that means you have to accept that they're going to die.
That's an interesting topic. So the vegan world, what is the probability that in 50 years the West will be vegan?
In 50 years, I'm not sure. I feel
100
like
years.
I feel like there's also the issues of like just generational change, where like if people who are alive right now, they're raised by like non-vegan families, they're raised that way, so they're non-vegan. Yeah. There's just like that generational change where you just were raised with those beliefs and you raise your kids with those beliefs. That even if like climate change, like things people are saying like, oh, let's go vegan for like climate change reasons, it's still the cultural thing that probably takes a really long time to change. So I feel like there'd be a major.
In other words, like if the climate was fine, we'd still be in the same boat.
Yeah. I feel like it's possible for it to continue because it seems to have been growing, but I think some people go vegan for the fad.
Yeah. So that's true.
It's hard to say. Like the vegan world, what does that even mean? Because like even phones have animal products. There'd be major changes in society in general. Yeah. That I'm not sure if people have really thought about a ton because the people who need to think about it aren't vegan.
Yeah. So what do you think about? I was thinking about this. Like, is it appropriate to call it an animal holocaust? Is that like a move we should make, a linguistic move we should make?
By definition, it is a Holocaust.
Okay.
You just need to make sure, like, there's, like, the Holocaust, like what happened in World War II. And then there's just what a Holocaust is. I think it literally is. Who's
the one guy, the Peter or something? What's his name? The one guy you're talking about, the crazy one who's, like, going around to...
Gary Rofsky.
Yeah.
He's explains it as, like, I mean, I don't want to like quote him and be wrong, but it's like in general, it's like he sees it as like worse than the Holocaust. Okay. Because if you think about the number of individuals that are being killed, and it's being constant.
That might be
for however many years. I mean, think about how long. Like the way he explained it is like at the concentration camps, like the in World War II, there were also. I mean, this is what he said, so I would have to like fact check it. But there's like slaughterhouses also there. Okay. And then when the Allies came to rescue, the people in the concentration camps, they left the animals there. Yeah. So they, animals were being like in this situation before the Holocaust, during, and still after. Yeah. And if you look at the perspective of the individuals, I mean, they're being put in gas chambers, they're being mutilated and killed. Yeah. So I mean, and then we're just selling their parts.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess one thing that might make the notion of the Holocaust seem a little more appropriate is the fact that there's just so many animals being tortured and killed, right? So it's not, oh man, this is like, I'm sorry if this is triggering for anyone, but like, I mean, it's not just that there's like 6 million, right? Like there was in World War II, right? I mean, like, we don't have to say that animals have the same amount of value. We don't have to say they have half the amount of value, right? Let's say maybe animals had exactly half the amount of value that humans do. Maybe this is some misled mathematical reasoning, but it would seem as though like 12 million animals being killed would be equivalent to 6 million humans being killed because they have half the value. But like, I don't know what the numbers are. I said it in my video, but like, there's so many, and I'm not even talking about like insects. Like these are just like hardcore animals, right, being killed, every year. I think it's in the billions or something. Like, I mean, annually.
Trillions if you take fish and
yeah, the fish. Sorry, pescatarians, but like, I mean, that's kind of a problem too. But I think maybe like.
Well, if you think about like the statistic, like if you think about how many birds are like in the world, I think 70% of them are like in farms.
Yeah.
So like the chickens, how many chickens are raised?
Yeah.
It's like the natural. If you think about how many animals are in the world, most of them are being farmed for our consumption.
Yeah.
And then you have to like destroy wildlife to like have the farms and the feed and all that.
Yeah.
So we're destroying the natural world to put the animals in the cages.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of someone. How much value do animals have? Right. So maybe you could describe how much value they have in relation to how much value humans have. Maybe they have like half the amount of value as humans, or
I don't know about like a mathematical like fraction.
Yeah, you don't have to give like exactly like a mathematical thing,
but I think just the fact that they're conscious and they're like aware of their situation, they have enough value to be able to live.
Yeah,
and live their life. Like I think that's all that matters.
Enough for it to matter for them. Yeah.
I think the reason it matters is because they have their life.
Yeah.
It's now compared to a human. Sure, you can say they have less value if you're thinking about like human gain. But for that individual, it's still an individual animal that deserves to be able to live because all they want is just to be happy. It's just like people. It's just they don't have as much like logical abilities as like people.
Yeah, not as
but they still are able to like feel. They're still able to live. They're still able to enjoy things. Like the fact that they have that, we shouldn't take that away just because of like personal gain.
Yeah,
so I think they have enough value for us not to do things to them.
Yeah,
whatever that value is, people can debate that, but I don't think that's really as important as saying they have enough.
Yeah. What would be 3 of the worst objections you've heard to veganism, and respond to all of them, or just one or 2?
I mean,
then I'll ask you about the better ones later. I was debating whether or not I should ask them, but I think you have them in your head, so like I just kind of.
I think one is like health reasons. Like it's not healthy to be vegan.
Okay.
But
my friend's gonna watch this and be like, "What?"
I mean, sure, you need to think about it, but there's also like you don't have the cholesterol. I think a lot of meat is a carcinogen, like it can cause cancer, so like you just take that away.
Okay.
And yeah, you need a varied diet, but you need that anyway. So like if you're getting your protein from nuts, beans, tofu, and all different types of lentils and grains, like whatever you want to get your protein from is already like. Yeah. I feel like I've been healthier now that I've become vegan because I started wanting to think because I had like that same idea of like, well, how can you be healthy being vegan? Yeah. And so I started thinking about it more, and then once you find ways to like build a complete diet around it, you start realizing, oh, now it's so much more varied than just eating like a hamburger. I mean, a lot of the people that I've heard like say, oh, I don't know if I can be healthy. They're the ones who eat like Burger King all the time. They eat pizza. They eat like ice cream. Me right there with Impossible Burgers. Yeah, so you can be a junk food vegan. Junk food vegan. But I feel like a lot of people. I mean, it's not everybody. Like you're saying, like, there's people who study like they're dietitians. I mean, they study nutrition and they're not vegan. A lot of people don't think about health and nutrition for themselves until somebody mentions that they're vegan. I was about to bring that up. Then suddenly they become like nutrition experts and say you can't be healthy. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I've been having like recent like food problems in my personal life. But that aside, no, I mean, like I used to eat like really like poorly, just like fries, all this like processed meat and like all this stuff. Like no, but like meat aside, just like eating like just crazy stuff like. But like no one questioned my diet. Like no one was like, and I was maybe I had nobody's concerned. So maybe I had mental health problems back then. I mean, I did, and like I would talk to people about it, and like, but no one was like, you know what? Maybe it's like
the incessant amount of like grease and carbs that you're consuming from fries and like no one said that. Like now, like when I go to people, no, I understand. No offense, y'all. Like it's okay. But like now when I go to people, it's like, well, maybe it's your diet. Well, it's like my diet maybe is deficient, but at least it's a lot better than it was, and you weren't asking about it then.
Yeah.
And it's like I get it. I mean, like we all kind of have like this. Sorry, I think it's probably a bias, but like this, it's kind of like this bias in the background.
I mean, I think like even like the dining hall here, like at ASU, it's like. It's so easy to be unhealthy in there. Like they have all the cupcakes and desserts. They have all the pizza and hamburgers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people just eat that.
Yeah.
But like me, wanting to just eat the little vegan section.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's not the healthiest because I just eat what they give me. But a lot of times it's like the healthiest option.
Yeah.
And
no, it absolutely is. Absolutely.
And they have like different beans and legumes. You get salad just without like the certain dressing and cheese and egg.
Yeah.
But you can, have beans, spinach.
Yeah.
Peppers, onion, whatever you want to put on it.
Yeah.
It's the most varied diet I've had.
Yeah.
It feels like it's the healthiest diet I've had too. Like, eating the vegan stuff, it's so many different vegetables, grains. It's very varied.
Yeah.
I always have like all the different colors and.
Oh yeah, you gotta have the colors.
It's not just rice and meat. And beans.
Yeah, I was like, what kind of changed my eating? I mean, again, recently I'm a hypocrite because I've just been eating so poorly recently. But like maybe like a year ago when it's been about a year since I changed, 4 years for him, I guess. But like I think that's actually what pushed my diet in a better direction as well. That's just kind of what pushed me to eat a little bit better because like I went from eating all this chicken nuggets are so good, but like all this stuff to starting eating salads and all this, but like. And because I wasn't, well-rounded and everything, I did kind of have some health problems, like because I was just eating salads and chickpeas all day.
It's possible to be. It is possible to not eat well.
If you're not, and again, like I think every person's body is very different, and I think veganism works for us, and maybe it's not working for me. I don't know, but it clearly works for some people. But I think for others, it probably won't. But this goes back to the question I was positing earlier, which is like pretty controversial and slightly insensitive, where it's like. Maybe like some malnutrition is worth it, so maybe it's like a poor justification to contribute to
you can make like that argument that malnutrition's worth it, but I feel like if you are being malnourished, it is possible to still stay vegan and work on that. And
that's kind of what I was saying, right? So like it might be like still problematic for someone to consume animal products even if they're malnourished. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean you have to be careful. Like if someone has like an eating disorder and it's really hard for them to eat. Yeah, I mean I understand that.
Yeah, and I should also. I mean I'm in a deeply privileged position where I don't have to like worry about this. So I'm just kind of like looking down and be like, oh, look at all this. I have no idea what it's like to be. But I can imagine that being a situation. So I guess the arguments get off the ground whether or not I'm privileged or not. So yeah,
I definitely feel like it's possible. I mean, I know that it's possible. Like, I just had blood work done and everything came back. Like, that's related to diet-wise. That's all came back fine. Yeah. And so, like, you always have to take care of your health. And I feel like if you're worried about somebody being vegan, having a brown diet, I mean, that's for everybody. Everybody needs to worry about having a complete diet. Yeah. And you don't just eat, like, animal products. Everybody else eats, you got some beans and some lettuce and well-rounded salads and stuff. So everybody needs that stuff, but we just... find nutrition from other ways. I mean, like, the vitamins that animals get, like B12. Yeah. People always say, vegans are low in B12. Yeah. But most animals, I could be wrong, but I think most animals, like in factory farms, get their vitamins and stuff from vitamins. It's like, So they're giving, like, I think there's... Which means you can just get it from plant sources. Or you can just take a vitamin yourself, like they're giving the animals, so then they have the B12 in them, but then you eat the animal for it, or you just go directly to the vitamin. Yeah, that's true. Like, you're getting, and all of, like, the nutrients they get, it's all from the plants, and you just go directly to the plants instead of, like, filter it through the body of an individual. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah, okay, so... I'm trying to think, what would be the best argument against veganism? Like, what might convert you back to your meat-eating identity, I guess? I mean, for me right now, I don't know of any arguments that would convince me. Because I don't have really... I don't really have any arguments that would make me convinced against going in. I mean, maybe something will change one day in the future. I mean, I can't see in the future, so I don't know. Yeah. But right now, I've been stronger and stronger in my beliefs. Yeah. So, like, it's not really going the other way as much.
Yeah, so I don't think I talked about this to you about this, but like the other day, I think I was trying to develop one. I was like, because like so I develop arguments for everything just because. And what was it? It was something like I think animals. I'm gonna butcher this, man. I wish I had it more ready, but they're the kinds of things that I was thinking about in the context of SEAL training. Right, so this is actually really interesting
like
topic.
Navy SEAls?
Like Navy SEAls. So in SEAL training, there's a certain part of SEAL training where you have to like kill a pig, and you have to do stuff with it's like survival, all this stuff. Yeah. And I was thinking, I was like, what would make it permissible for someone to become a SEAL and to go through with that situation? And I might ask you about how you think about that, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe animals are the kinds of things that you can. Man, how did I word it?
Like certain situations you can use.
Well, it was more specific than that. So okay, this is what it was. So with humans, it seems like they have unalienable rights. So in other words, like there's no situation under which it's okay to kill an innocent child or something, right? Like this innocent child has an unalienable right to life, right? So maybe with animals, it's a little bit different. Like maybe it's like they matter, they have value, and their suffering sucks, and their pleasure is good, and their death is bad, and all this stuff. But like, it doesn't seem like they have rights to be overturned, right? So in other words, like, I could have a good enough reason to kill a pig, but I couldn't have a good enough reason to kill an innocent child, right? So if we put it into the trolley problem, that might illuminate this kind of thing that I was thinking about.
There's a kid in a pig.
Yeah, well, think about this, right? So like, imagine there's the set up the original situation, right, in two different ways. So first situation, there's 5 people on the track. Trolley's coming. If you don't pull the lever, it's going to run over the 5 people, right? But if you pull the lever, it's going to get rid of one person. Yeah. Or maybe to illuminate this, maybe to better clarify this thought experiment, I like the one with like the big person on the bridge, right? So like
would you push the person?
Yeah. So that one kind of is a little more poignant with my intuitions. So like imagine there's 5 people on a track, and there's a train coming, right? And it's going to run, but you can push this really huge person over the bridge to stop the train if it's this crazy big person or whatever. Would you kill this one person to save those 5 people? And like intuitively, it's like no. I mean, like I don't. As you said earlier, like what would it be like? What would it be like to be that person to be pushed? And probably not. But it actually might be different with a pig.
What's the difference?
So here's the thing. It seems like it would still suck for the pig to die because, like in order to be that pig, like that would just be horrible. But there's something about it where like it's at least understandable, right? It's at least like okay, this is maybe permissible, right? To push the pig. It was a really big pig. You push the pig over. Now it's like this is a horrible situation, but like at least it's permissible. Whereas with the first one, there's kind of a stronger notion of permissibility there.
I mean,
so I want to know what do you think about that?
I mean, in my opinion, I don't see a difference because it's still an individual that you're killing.
Yeah.
I feel like if people are making that argument, it's just coming from like the social construct that animals are worth less than
maybe
people.
Just kind of this arbitrary cultural thing.
We're just grown up and we just grew up in like society where it's okay. I mean, you're taught from a young age like chicken, you can kill it.
Yeah.
Dogs don't kill them. I mean, in the U.S. at least, dogs don't kill them. Cats don't kill them. Pigs, kill them.
Yeah.
Cows
humans know.
Humans definitely know.
Humans definitely know.
But then certain animals you can, certain animals you can't kill and use.
So this would be.
I think it's kind of like that idea of between the person and the pig is just coming from that.
Yeah.
But like in my perspective, it's still an individual that you're killing.
Yeah.
It's still a difficult situation. Like, would you kill the one to save the 5? That question still stands.
It's the same kind of question.
But for me, it's the same thing if it's a person or the animal because it's still having to kill something to save, and still you can debate like should I kill the 1 for the 5?
Yeah.
But
the thought experiments actually are kind of the same.
For me, it's very similar.
Yeah. I wonder if they're So what you were just describing, so that Peter Singer would describe as speciesism, right? So it's like we arbitrarily ascribe significance to our species. I was developing objections to my own thing because like I was like, if this is true, I think there might be an intuition that pushing the pig over is less bad than pushing over the
People definitely get that. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. Not everybody, but most people who are like non-vegan, like just complete meat eaters, like there's, quote unquote normal people who like aren't vegan, they would probably agree that pushing a pig would be better. Yeah. Because they're already eating it, so they're already contributing to it.
I should say, you could say that it would be better and not necessarily agree fully with what I'm saying. To more articulate what I'm saying is, the pig doesn't have the unalienable right? So it might have some kind of right to life, but it's it can be overturned, right? It seems as though, plausibly, but then
culturally,
maybe culturally.
I think I don't think it should be that way, but I think right now where we are in the world, it is that way. Because it's one of those things where it's almost pretty much, I don't know every culture, but most cultures around the world, no matter what country you're in, they eat meat or use animals in some way. Yeah. So it's one of those issues that majority of the people on the planet agree with in some way or another, that the animals are here for us to use.
So maybe we can have to work with that a little bit to make progress or something.
But it's one of those things, if you think about how long it took for slavery in the U.S. to end.
I was gonna bring that up too.
It's it took a long time for that to end.
Yeah.
And that's they're human beings.
Yeah.
It took those however long.
Yeah, that's true. It's how much longer.
Now, how much longer they view animals? It's been going on for much longer than slavery. For human existence. Yeah. And it's all around the world. There's not really many people going against it. Yeah. So
it'll probably take a lot more.
Yeah. Because it's even if you think about racism in the U.S. Yeah. I feel a lot of it's it's great what's happened. It's obviously it's not a good thing. Yeah. I think a lot of it's sort of generational too, and that. Yeah. My grandma was alive during a lot of the civil rights stuff. Yeah. So there are people who are still alive during that, and that means there's still people alive during that who disagree with equal rights. Yeah. And then they'll have kids and raise them. Yeah. So as generations go on and we start getting further and further away from that, hopefully they'll start going away from that, so it goes away more and more as time goes on. Yeah, maybe it's not saying that we can't do things now, but there's also the part of just time away. Yeah. But with animals, you'll need a lot more time away, but there's no such thing as time away.
Yeah, I don't know. I told you about this other day. We were outside the MU or whatever. I think it's the MU. I don't even know. Anyway, no, it was it would be I think I got this from Alex O'Connor, who is no longer vegan, by the way. But no, it's something I don't want my grandchild asking me why did you eat meat? So imagine 60 years. Somehow the West is kind of converted and maybe not fully, but the
popular belief.
The popular belief, something this whole hamburger thing, no. Let's say society changed, and if that happened, let's say I had my a grandson, and he asked me, well, why did you eat all of this meat stuff? That's just so weird and gross. It'd be kind of me asking, or my dad or someone asking his grandpa or my grandpa or whatever. Not actually my grandpa. I love my grandpa, but it's kind of well, why did you own a slave? It seems like a good question to ask. It was the times, it was the cultural situation they were in, and that's all understandable. But there's still a sense in which the kid is justified in asking the grandfather, why were you a slave owner? In a sense, as if the kid was in the same situation, they wouldn't have been a slave owner, which is probably not true. But there's still, it's still force to the situation.
Yeah, you want to be on what you believe is the right side of history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that was just something I was just thinking about. No, yeah, there was. No, yeah, okay. So I don't mean to circle all the way back here, but this, I was thinking about that thought experiment earlier about the pig pushing the pig over, and the reason I'm not totally sold on this kind of argument is because what could explain the relevant difference, right? So maybe we have this intuition that pushing the pig over, it's permissible, and pushing the bad guy over is not permissible. But what about the pig is different from the human? To explain this difference, and I really,
you could say it's I
couldn't find it.
It's if we say it's intelligence level. Well, then,
yeah,
what about if there's a person who is mentally really not well, or in a coma, so there's nothing, they're stuck in a coma for the rest of their life, that's how they are. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make it suddenly right to throw them over and kill them. Yeah. And they also have pigs have the intelligence of a toddler.
Yeah. That's another point, I guess. Like,
but I mean, every animal is different. But if you say like intelligence level,
intelligence is going to be a really bad criteria to judge value.
Because then you can also use, if it's just intelligence, like that's the only argument you make.
Yeah.
Then there's also like, you know, people with different mental health issues.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that, and then maybe their intelligence level is different.
Yeah.
Not saying their value is less.
Exactly, because it's not dependent on intelligence.
So then you're saying something else. It's just the fact that it is a pig.
Yeah.
So then it gets into the speciesism. Well, it's just because it's a pig, doesn't matter how intelligent it is, it's okay
Yeah.
to kill them.
And I think it's important to note here, maybe for the audience, like, I don't have to come up with a theory as to why a thing is valuable to know that two things that are valuable aren't relevantly different, right? So I don't have to account for the value in humanness to know that there's no relevant difference between the value of the pig or the human. Now, maybe there is one, and I actually kind of like, my personal view is something like animals are less valuable. I don't know about the unalienable right thing, but they are less valuable, but they're at least valuable enough, to warrant moral consideration.
What do you mean by value?
Man, this is gonna turn from veganism to meta ethics real fast. So I mean, I think
like what gives something value. I'm not saying disagree with the less
that's
value.
That's a good question. So that's kind of what I was saying. I was like, I don't have an answer, right? So like, I mean, I suppose there's different kinds of values. Like, so one, there's aesthetic value. Like, so we're both musicians. Like, there's kind of value there. There's then there's like moral value. So things that should be considered like. They should be given moral worth, moral consideration. So that would be something like humans, animals, those kinds of things. Maybe I think it extends more than just to living things, but that aside. So, but the question is like, what makes a thing valuable? Like that's. So I worked at Adidas this past summer, and like I thought, and it was a completely mindless job. Like nothing against Adidas, but it was just like I didn't have to think. So I thought so much just about ethics, like what grounds the value of humans, and like I just couldn't figure it out. I kind of came up with a theory, but like honestly, you can weed out just about any property of humans, and a human would still be valuable. So like here's one: consciousness. Right, so you can be completely unconscious, and it would be wrong for me to stab you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can ask, well, like you're the kind of thing that could be conscious. Well, it's like, what does that mean? Like, what criteria is there for a thing to be the kind of thing to be conscious? Because like, I can imagine, like, in some crazy, far off universe, like maybe a chair could be conscious, right? Like maybe like something like it could be, like it's probably not. Like, I mean, I can kind of conceive of the chair being conscious in a sense. Like, what about this human form, like, grounds the ability to be conscious? Because it seems like everything can be conscious. Like, I was thinking about, like, just consciousness, and that doesn't seem like a good criteria. And as we said, intelligence wasn't really a good criterion. What thoughts do you have? Like, you have any theories as to what could ground...
Like, value?
Yeah, I guess, like, what could give something moral worth?
I mean, I guess that's a really difficult
it's
a really difficult
I don't mean to pin you
question.
down that quick. I mean, so I think it's important to note, it also depends on your, like, meta-ethical framework. So, like, if you're a utilitarian, these kind of questions are going to be a little bit weird, because what you want to do is maximize pleasure, minimize pain. Yeah. Right? And probably minimize death and maximize, existence or something. Yeah. I don't know how many utilitarians would accept that part, but so, I mean, under that framework, the question is different. Because, like, killing a fat person, right, it's completely worth it, right? You should, there's actually a moral obligation
like in their view,
to kill the fat person.
Like one person gone for
exactly.
5.
Yeah. So, like, which I think is evidence against utilitarianism. But anyway, that was just a brain dump. You don't have to say anything, but, like, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say because, like you're saying, consciousness, like, just because science unconscious doesn't mean it doesn't have value.
Yeah. But
it's like going back to, like, the animals, like, in the farms, like, they are awake and conscious, and they do have the ability to feel. And it's just this is a living thing. But then it goes into plants are living, but they don't have, like, the nerves. They don't have.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's always like a thought process, like, what if they have nerve damage and don't feel anything?
Yeah.
They're in a coma. I mean,
that's kind of an objection to veganism that is strange.
And sometimes those objections get like.
What if plants are conscious?
Like
they're not.
But, like, if we get so deep into there, then you forget that, like, the majority of animals are conscious and are aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
it's like you're getting into, like, oh, what about this one animal out of, like, the billions others?
Yeah, one mystery that's, like, maybe it's not a mystery, but, like, something's interesting. It's like it's like while consciousness or conscious experience, like pleasure and pain, maybe doesn't completely ground value, it still really matters. Like, it seems like we want to say that, you know, a baby getting tortured is bad in virtue of the baby's pain. But, like, you know, simultaneously, even if something didn't feel any pleasure or pain, I can imagine, like, you know, maybe, like, I was the kind of being whose all nerve endings were shot or something, and, like, you know, there's people like this where, like, you know, I don't know all the science, but, like, you know, like, they're actually capable of feeling some kind of, like, physical pain. It's actually really dangerous for them because they go around life just kind of haphazardly, right? You know, they're not aware of what's painful, you know? So, like...
It doesn't give you the right to hurt them.
Absolutely. You know, like, it still seems like maybe they can't be harmed, but their death would be bad. And, like, even if they couldn't feel the harm, attempting to harm them would be bad. So, like, it's strange that, like, while something could be, you know, could lack the capability to experience pleasure or pain, but still have value, but pleasure and pain still counts for a badness or goodness of a situation.
Yeah, and you're still going out causing something.
Yeah.
To something else in a negative way.
Yeah.
It's like even if they don't feel it, you still have the mental idea of like, I'm gonna go out and do this to them.
Yeah.
Which I think is still
not
it's like I have just belief for just being peaceful and kind to just
So
it's like I don't want to cause pain to things, people and animals in general.
You just don't want to cause pain to things. Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
And you don't want to end the existence of things that seem to be valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of so here's a question I might be more interested than you, but like I think I want to ask it. What is the role of arguments and maybe philosophy in this conversation? Like, should you depend more on maybe like, you know, some syllogisms, some arguments like I just gave for value, or should it be more like an intuitive thing where it's like, this thing seems to matter, you should give it moral worth, come on.
I mean, I think both are just equally as valuable because every person will have a different thing that might make them want to go vegan. For me, it's just like the intuitive, like, well, it's like, it's an animal.
It matters.
Like,
that's it. Like,
my reason for being vegan, I didn't have any philosophical background in it at all. I didn't have a philosophical background. Yeah. So, like, I didn't think about that stuff at all. I didn't think about, like, more... I didn't like these conversations you're having with yourself, like, when you're working at Adidas. I never thought about that at all. I just thought it's like, well, it's a cow. I'm not going to want to pay to drink its milk. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like,
And that was enough for me. But other people, it's not weird. And it's totally fine with them. So they might need the philosophical
or probing and stuff.
They need the arguments to like. You need the arguments to convince some people. Other people, it's just intuitive. They just don't know. Like I've had conversations with friends back in San Diego about like veganism stuff. It wasn't full philosophical. It was more just about like physically what happens in the farms. Yeah. And they had no idea that for like cows to produce milk, they have to get pregnant, which means you forcefully impregnate them, take the baby away. Yeah. But they didn't know that a cow needs to be pregnant to give milk. I mean, that's literally what mammals do.
I did not know that either.
So like, I mean, I didn't know that first, like when I didn't know. But when I learned that, it's like, it makes sense why. Yeah. Because that's just how mammals work. The milk is for the baby. Yeah. But they didn't even know that. Yeah. So like, I think there's a lot of like, it depends on the people. Some people need that. Some people just tell them that, there'll be enough for them to be like, really? I didn't know that. Well, now I don't really want to drink milk because I know that. Yeah. Other people, they know it or just don't care. And once they learn it, and they need some other arguments.
Yeah. So I imagine, like, you know, you could probably convince someone, like, by neither. So I can imagine someone who is kind of, you know, like we all are, kind of like formed by culture, and they just don't really care, you know. But, like, you know, arguments aren't going to do much because, like, it's just too analytic. I can imagine, like, maybe, like, you would never do this forcefully, ever, but, like, you know, if someone came across a video of something like, you know, the slaughterhouses and stuff like that might. I said earlier, like me and my friend were watching some videos, and like it almost like, you know, it's just like stuff's gross, man, and like that's just kind of enough. Like, I mean, philosophizing about all this stuff is fun. That's fine, but like at the end of the day, like you see it,
just look at it.
It's just like
you just know that it's wrong. And
that
shouldn't be happening. At least my opinion, it's like when I've seen it, it's like, why do I want to like eat that? Yeah. Like, or pay for that to happen, and I just don't. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people don't know about what happens. And sure, there's some farms that are better or worse. Mm-hmm. But it's still the same things are happening. Yeah. And sure, some people just like they see it, can cause a lot of trauma. But then I think, like my thing is like if you can't look at that footage, you need to ask yourself why. Yeah, that's actually you should like support it, and why you should like keep buying the products. Like if you can't see how they're produced. Yeah. You can't make yourself sit and watch it. Yeah. Like, there's a reason why, like, I've seen commercials, like, is it Lucerne, like, the ice cream and milk? they have like kids eating ice cream. There's a cow in this big green field, and they're looking up at the cow, and they're happy and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a reason they make the advertisements like that, and not just showing what's inside the farms. If it was actually good, they would just advertise what happens inside the farms.
Yeah.
Because they just show like like there's the how it's made show, and you see how like erasers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why don't they have like how it's made a hamburger, but not just the not just like the inside like the forming the meat when it's already cut, because people have seen like raw meat before, that doesn't disturb people. But from the birth of the cow to the raising of the cow to the the killing of the cow and all like everything goes in factory farm, and then the meat production. Like there's a reason that doesn't really happen as much, and it's not just like public television, people just watching like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like if that happened on TV, people would like be upset. There's always like vegan commercials that like, show not real footage, but like they allude to like violence, and then they get in trouble and the commercials get banned because it disturbs people. But it's like, if that disturbs you, you need to ask yourself why it disturbs you. Like I think a lot of people just like have this cognitive dissonance and don't want to think about it, or don't ever think about it, because the culture, we just don't.
I mean, like, in a sense, that is understandable. I mean, like, this is kind of
who wants to watch
the world we live in. Like, I mean, like, one thing to note, like, I mean, I've told you this before, and I think I mentioned it in the video, but, like, I mean, I'm not a vegan for emotional reasons, right? Nor am I a vegan for dietary reasons. I'm a vegan for philosophical reasons, right? So I can imagine someone can be a vegan for any of those, right? But, like, I'm not, right? So, in other words, like, I mean, the cow videos didn't sway me, right? And if it wasn't for the philosophy, they wouldn't sway me, right? So it's not as if, the person watching this, if they watch the cow video and they're not persuaded, it's like, whatever. But like, I mean, a different kind of thing convinced me. But like, there still is truth to the. I really like that. Like, if something disturbs you, like, I mean, that should really kind of make you think twice. It's like, in a sense, it's kind of like morbidly interesting. So me and my friend back in college. We'd like pull up these really dark videos. Like we'd go into the depths of Reddit and like find these like horrible and we'd like and we'd even laugh because of how horrible it was. It just like it was the peak of human darkness, and there was no other So like maybe there's kind of like this morbid curiosity to, but there's a sense in which you should reflect on that morbid curiosity and be like,
You also were saying that you knew it was like the dark side.
Yeah, you have to be aware that it's dark.
Good, but the difference between that and the cow videos is like you're not paying for that stuff to most likely.
There we go. There's the implication.
But you weren't like paying for that stuff to happen. Whereas like the slaughterhouse, like you literally would be paying for it, like if you aren't vegan. Or I mean, technically, vegans still pay for some of it because like technology has stuff. Pianos. They have leather and ivory keys. Well, some have ivory. Ivory is illegal now, but there's animal products in pretty much everything. That's why it's like the far as practical and possible.
I was literally just about to ask that as the next part of it. So how far should we go, right? So like, because there is kind of a question, and I'm not gonna like go down the dark road with this, even though I could, and I kind of alluded to it in the last video. I think to go down a super dark road would be maybe triggering or dangerous, so I'm not going down that road. But like, I mean, there's a sense in which like I've probably killed 30 ants today, at the very least. Like just walking down the road. So like, should I like not walk down the road? Like, I mean, clearly, we can walk down the road. So like, what would you say about that?
I mean, I agree. I mean, if you see like bugs on the ground, I always avoid them. And like, if I have a bug in my house or my apartment, I mean, I even had like. I forget if this semester or last. But there was like in my kitchen light, I saw like the silhouette of a lizard. And I thought, well, how long has it been in there? And I thought it was just like dead. Either way, I want to get it out. But then I saw it move, and so I had to stand on my stool and like unscrew it, hold things on my head. I mean, it's kind of dangerous what I did, but I got it out, put it outside, and who knows what happens to the lizard.
Man, he's a hero.
But it's like I do everything I can to like not kill things. I mean, accidental things will happen. It's impossible to be perfect. I mean, like buying food, like for food, I mean, it's not a necessity to eat animal products. You don't have to. So, I mean, that's something. Clothes, you don't have to wear leather. Even like I just went to Skechers, like the shoe store, and they have shoes that are actually labeled vegan. Because even if you get shoes without leather, a lot of them still use animal-based glue. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of ways that aren't in at least developed areas where like we are, a major university. It's easy enough to be like I'm not going out of my way. I'm not going to a weird vegan store.
Yeah.
Or having to order stuff online, ship it back, and go back and go. Like,
Yeah.
find the right size. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I went to like a regular shoe store and they have stuff that's labeled.
Yeah.
So it's getting easier and easier. But it's not about being perfect. And I think if people just think about perfection, and then like, well, I can't be perfect, so I won't do anything at all.
Yeah.
Like that's just
imagine if you use that principle with everything else. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, I can't be a good person. I might as well be mean to everybody.
Yeah.
And I might as well like abuse everybody in my life. Because I'll always cause some pain to somebody at one point, so I might as well just always do it. It's like, that's not really true.
It's not a really good solution to the. I think maybe the practicability question is kind of like I don't know, maybe a red herring to the actual conversation. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a really useful. I mean, it's fun to talk about. I think there's implications there, like. And I really want to explore them, but I feel like, I mean, the 3 people that watch this, it's just not worth exploring because it actually just gets so dark. So like, but I have maybe some people can put that together. But anyway, I don't have to talk about that.
I mean, it's like you can create as less harm as possible while also trying to promote good in the world.
Yeah.
Like if you promote veganism, try to help people even just make different changes in their life, like buying a vegan burger every once in a while, like buying the Impossible Burger from Burger King. It's all economics. I mean, that's why dairy companies don't want plant milk to be called milk.
Yeah.
It's just because then it's hurting their financial situation.
So, yes.
But if there's enough, like, demand for a vegan product like the Impossible Burger, there's a reason they have it, because there's demand for it. And if there's continued demand, they'll want more and more.
Yeah.
So, like, if suddenly things start shifting, people only order the Impossible Burger, they'll probably have more options for that. And then
it'll become more marketable and everything.
So if the vegans weren't here, then there wouldn't be any like demand for it. Then it would go away.
Yeah.
So like you need to create
the fact that we're here,
and create the demand and help people like slowly see it. Those are like real options that you can have. And even if they don't switch to veganism, it's still promoting the demand.
Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting question, because like I know like. I haven't talked. I mean, like you're like the only vegan that like I've talked to, aside from like one over. But like on the internet, other people that I've heard about, like so there's 2 kind of approaches here, and like I've actually never thought about this until this moment. I thought it'd be a good question to ask for the podcast, but like, so there's 2 approaches. There's a gradual approach, and then there's like a approach, right? So I mean, this is the same with addiction, right? So I mean, so either you like can
cold turkey or just...
go cold turkey, or do you just So with veganism, like So here's a question. Like, so imagine I told you I had this problem with, I was a kleptomaniac or something. Is that like when you steal things from people?
Yeah.
So imagine I was a kleptomaniac, and I just had this really big problem stealing things from people, and imagine like I told you, like I'm really just trying to do less, I'm just trying to, as long as today I can only steal 5 things, it'll be fine, Like, so as long as like, on Tuesdays I can just steal 3 things from people, like it's, that's fine. There's a sense in which I kind of get that, but also there's a sense in which it's like, when you're stealing, you should just stop, because every act of it's not like...
It's a crime.
Yeah, so like, what would you say is the best approach to, if someone wanted to become vegan?
I mean, I technically went the gradual way of going vegetarian, and meat, vegetarian, then vegan. So, I mean, if other people are doing that process, I can't just only say, oh, you're a bad person for doing that.
No, And I should say, I don't think you're a bad person with the gradual approach. I was just giving an argument against it.
I mean, if people start making changes, like if I see other friends here who are starting to like, eat more of the vegan option every once in a while, I would definitely be happy for that.
No, but it's progress,
I think of like calling yourself vegan. You can't just like, I'm vegan except for Sunday. I don't think that works. Then you have to call yourself like plant-based. Like I'm mostly plant-based.
Okay.
Like vegan is more.
Vegan has the moral connotation to it.
Or like you don't want to use the animals. It's not just like the diet. It's like everything else that's involved.
Yeah.
So I mean, the gradual can definitely be good, and I think as much as I wish people could just go vegan, you also like there's all the thought experiments, but in the end you have to be realistic with what the world actually is. So like people are gonna be gradual most likely. I mean a lot of people just go vegan after watching like those documentaries like Dominion and all those, but
and like I'm actually kind of like I'm thinking about like food addiction kind of things, like, and I'm struggling with stuff in my own life. I'm just kind of thinking about how to navigate that, and I think maybe something helpful applies here, where it's like there's actually kind of something really dangerous, and it kind of backfires if you go cold turkey, right? So maybe it worked for some people, right? But I think maybe like demanding cold turkey everyone's got to go vegan and like now. There can be no transition period. I think if people were to try to do that, there would be like indulgences, all over the place. There would be this, kind of like backfire.
Like you're relapsing. And
yeah.
What could be helpful for a lot of people is if they're going gradual, it's not just like change what you're doing, but also try to like educate yourself about where other products come from.
Yeah.
Like maybe that means watching the videos. And
that might motivate you or something.
Like, yeah, try to figure out what's happening in the production of your products, not just like, well, they said it's better, or for climate reasons, whatever. Anything about the climate reason, I find the statistics about like the difference between growing beans versus beef or cow.
Yeah.
So educate yourself about like where the products come from is really important as well. To help you maybe convince yourself more of like have a stronger reason why you want to stay vegan.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that reason, then
exactly.
That's why a lot of people end being vegan because they don't have the reason to stay.
Yeah.
But for me, like I have like the reasons, so I don't see myself like not being vegan.
So this is very interesting. I mean, I think this is like a broad point that applies to like everything, but I think the reason we've stayed vegan for so long and you for much longer is like we've associated with our identity in a sense, right? So it's like, in other words, like if you picked up a steak tomorrow, like you would like and ate it, like it's some crazy situation, like you would feel horrible about yourself. There'd be some kind of like self-loathing even. And like imagine like you saw me, secretly trying to shove down like this Whopper or something. You'd be like, well, I've lost respect. You might even be like, I don't want to be friends with him anymore. Like it's kind of like this respect lost, and that's and that kind of brings up another point. Like we're going so long, but it's so interesting. Like how far are we willing to go? Because like we're both like in this, I don't know about your environment necessarily, but I know with me, I'm in a very privileged environment. Like it's quite easy. Like I mean, at home, like my grandparents, it's like a little bit complicated sometimes. But like I go to Lidl, get my own food. Like it's not even that problematic. But I was thinking like if there was some food scarcity or something, like I mean, how far would we go?
Yeah.
And it's not like a Shawn, how far would you go? It's just kind of like a general, like for anyone who has any kind of lifestyle, I guess, like how far are we willing to go?
Yeah, I mean, food scarcity, I guess it depends on what's being scarce. I mean, a lot of like during COVID, a lot of stuff was out. It's like eggs were hard to get.
Yeah.
And meat was really expensive because like farms and COVID, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but in terms of like beans and vegetables, you can grow your own. Now the possibility of that also it's a privilege of having the space to do it. So I mean, everything has to do with privilege too. But I mean, in terms of how far I'm going, it's like food and clothes. I mean, right now. We're not, at least we are both privileged because we're in a major university, major city. Yeah. So a lot of things are easy. Yeah. And just because like other people don't have privilege doesn't mean you can use that as an excuse.
That's true.
To
do
like you are in this situation. I've heard people say, well, these people in this like place.
But that's not us. That's like, not us.
Yeah, but what about you right here?
Yeah,
at this
exactly.
University, like you are able to. And I think in general, I've gone to the point where I don't consider not going vegan and just like. My main reason is just because of looking at it from the perspective of the animal. I guess mine's more of an emotional reason. Mm-hmm. So like for me, the emotional one worked. It's like going back to your point of like, what's the value of like arguments and philosophy? It's like, I think they're all valuable because everybody's so different and what can make them like open their eyes to veganism. And some people it's harder to open their eyes, some people won't ever. But I think each different angle is equally important. I think, I mean, I guess they're equally important, but I think just trying to like see that the animals have at least enough value to like not being killed for pleasure. Yeah. I think most products are used just for, not all, I mean there's like medicine, people don't want to take a pill necessarily. Yeah. But most like food and clothing, it's all pleasure. Different types of pleasure, like eating and wearing clothes to look different ways, but it's all just based on the senses. Yeah. So like they have enough value to not be used for our own personal gain because just like I wouldn't use a person for my personal gain, like I don't own a person, I don't want to like eat them. Yeah. It's the same with animal, like I wouldn't want to eat, I see it kind of similar, like I wouldn't want to be a cannibal. Yeah. But I also see a cat and I don't want to eat a cat. Yeah. But then what's the difference between a cat and a pig? Yeah. And for some people they don't see a difference, I mean at least then they're consistent. But I don't see a difference. Yeah, I mean, like, what was I gonna say? It literally slipped on what I was gonna say. Never mind. No, you're fine. Oh yeah.
I was gonna ask another question though. No, yeah, okay, about ownership. Because like I mentioned this a few weeks ago, and I think I haven't heard this from the vegan community much, but I think it's a conversation we're talking about, like, in what sense is it okay to own an animal? You know? Like,
I mean, I guess it changes how you think about it. Like, yeah, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have to own an animal. They can just live their lives.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. But unfortunately, in our world right now, there are animals in situations where we are the only ones that, because of the situation we're in, where humans are the ones who have the position to like take care of them or at least give them happier homes.
Yeah.
So like animal shelters, like if you go into breeders, you know, I don't like breeders.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many animals in shelters that are overflowing that if you don't take them out, they're just euthanized because they don't have space. They have to take more.
Yeah.
So like I have cats in my house in California. Yeah. I don't know if I want cats in the future because you have to feed them meat.
Yeah.
But like I don't consider it like owning. I mean, legally it is. Yeah. So if there's some sort of legal battle, we'd say, okay, we own them because you want to keep them. Yeah. But I see them as like family members. Yeah. To where it's like they're another individual in our household. They just don't speak English, but they're another individual in our house. We don't let them out, not because I don't think like Jane, for example, my cat. Yeah. It's not that she doesn't want to go out. Of course she does, but it's because if she goes out, she'll probably get hit by a car or killed by a coyote. Yeah. So like,
see that made me think about like, I'm actually having a lot of like insights in this conversation. Interesting, like about like the nature of like colonization with respect to like humans, right? So it actually seems as though we've like completely colonized like so much, like, you know.
I mean, cats are domesticated. And dogs are domesticated.
And I'm just thinking like the whole human project, like the fact that there's traffic and cars and everything, like it immediately makes an animal's life that much more difficult.
Yeah, it's like you can think about like, oh, we shouldn't have to own animals, but in our situation,
the situation that we've created that has colonized.
That's why there's like animal sanctuaries that like take care of like rescued farm animals, but they need somebody to still take care of them because they can't just go out to get food on their own because there's no situation where they can. Yeah. So like I wouldn't say animal sanctuaries. They legally own the animals, so that you know people can't just say we don't own them. I'm just gonna take them. Yeah. Just for their safety and just legality. Yeah. But in the end, I think. I mean, I don't know what most people think, but like in animal sanctuaries, generally it's more of like they're individuals who are taking care of them, giving them like as happy a life as possible. Yeah. Like with the resources that we have and that's possible to give, like in the creative world that humans made.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting because I can imagine a world where like we create a system that somehow makes it more difficult for a certain kind of person, let's say. No, let's not identify a certain kind of person. Let's just say a certain kind of person. Let's say we make a system where that certain kind of person is difficult for them to live in virtue of who they are or something. And then, you know, we say, well, we really just want to treat them well, so we're just going to like, you know, with the system we've built, you know, even though it excludes them necessarily, let's just do the best we can to make sure they don't have a horrible life, you know. There's something that kind of, it's like, yeah, but like, it's something that kind of sucks about that, you know? It's something that's kind of like...
It's like nature. I mean, like, where I lived in California, all of these natural habitats, like, there's even some that are, like, naturally very sensitive environments, like, that actually are, like, diminishing, like, the type of area it was. I forget exactly what the name was, but now they're being sold to build, like, condos, and, like, and so we see them get torn down. Yeah. And so people are always going to put themselves first because of money. But it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of like the world we live in.
You know, it's there. I could imagine. You know, this is not my field of thinking. I can imagine someone really genuinely like talking about some kind of like systemic uprooting or something. Because like honestly, there's kind of like a culture is built on this neglect of beings other than us. You know.
That's why it would take a while for a vegan world to actually happen because like people of different cultures.
Systemic problems with that's actually there's literally systemic problems like
it's but through different cultures too. It's not just like the U.S.
No,
around the world we all are building worlds like or cultures that are pro-human. Yeah, and that's that's just how it is.
And you know I guess again I can imagine we still we can retain our pro-humanness, but still somehow kind of like uproot the. I don't know. That's very weird.
I always don't pay for animals to be killed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not necessary in like a civilized world.
Yeah.
Because we can live without it. I think that's the big thing. Is you can still be pro-human, but just not take somebody else's life and in doing so.
Yeah. I guess maybe like one last question I could ask, like, what kind of difference is there between someone paying for the death or suffering of an animal and someone actually killing or making an animal suffer?
I mean, if you're actively going out finding animals you want to kill, I think that can be, technically you could argue that it's worse.
Yeah.
But if you're knowingly paying, knowing that somebody's going to go out, like if I hired like a hitman to kill somebody.
Yeah, at the very least it's still bad.
If I hire a hitman to kill somebody, they kill them, and they find that the police find out I did that,
yeah,
I'm going to get charged with the crime.
Yeah.
Because I was the one who instigated it.
So, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm wondering about, because the hitman analogy is interesting. I wonder if it's analogous, right? So imagine if I paid somebody to hire, imagine I paid someone who might hire a hitman, right? So like imagine like I paid to eat someone's flesh. That sounds horrible. Let's take the body out of the equation. Let's just say I paid money to get a trash can or something. I just needed a trash can, so I paid this money. And
that person used the money.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of this probabilistic thing where it's like he might use the money.
I mean,
you know, what about then?
That's a little different because you're not knowingly doing it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't control what other people do, and if they suddenly just change. I mean, if you knew that there's a chance for them to use the money for that, you're like, well, maybe I'll go get trash can.
Way up the problem. Yeah.
I'll go to trash can, get that Home Depot.
Yeah.
Home Depot's probably not hiring hitmen. But it's.
Yeah. Well, so that was actually really hard. I'm bad with it.
Well, if it's you know that's gonna happen. It's like a lot of people when they go to the supermarket and buy meat.
Yeah.
They don't even know about what happens to production.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't inherently say like, oh, they're evil for doing what they're doing because that's just what they're raised to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I ate it. I went to restaurants and wanted a burger.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I did.
Yeah.
But now that I know what happens, I think then it starts changing. Like if you watch the factory farm footage and then say, whatever, I'm gonna get it. Mm-hmm. Then it kind of switches, like, is it good or bad? Yeah. It's like, you know what's happening, and you know you're paying for it to happen. Yeah. And then you still go out and buy it. Mm-hmm. That makes it, at least in my mind, a little bit worse.
Yeah. So, that was a really bad... So, you addressed a point that I wasn't trying to make, that I just didn't know how to make clearly, but that was a very important point to respond to, so I'm glad we discussed that. But I guess, so I can be more careful with what I'm saying. So, okay, so when you give your money to whoever is producing this meat, that money that you give to the person is not necessarily going to go to the killing of the animal. It might go to the manufacturing, or it might go to something else, or it might go to the restaurant as a whole. You know, it might go to maybe some plant product or something. Like,
it still funds, like if it's in a restaurant and you buy the hamburger, if they have like a hamburger, a vegan burger and a meat burger, there's like two options, that's all you can get. Yeah. And you just go and buy the meat burger, it just creates more demand for that. So like there's some increased marketability, I mean, like if you go to a grocery store, it is funding the company that makes the product, so it might not directly go to the paycheck of the person who kills them.
But it's also raising the number of...
It raises the demand, and then it just makes the company more profitable, so they want to keep doing it. Yeah. And you're giving the company money. The only reason they do it is because they make money from it. So if you take the money away, they wouldn't do it. Yeah. So like, I don't want to give money to a company for allow them to continue doing that. Or if there's a company that makes vegan products now, at least then you build demand for those products. Yeah. In my mind.
So to people watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, what would be some final remarks that you might leave them with?
I mean, I think it's like, if you don't know about what happens in the production of the animal products, just look it up and research that way. Watch some of the animal documentaries like Dominion. I forget the name of the other ones.
I don't know any of them.
Well, Dominion is one of them. And if you can't watch those, there's a YouTube video like Dairy is Scary.
Dairy is Scary.
Yeah, okay. It shows it explains some of the process of like the dairy industry that could be vegetarian. Just educate yourself in it. If you can't watch the videos, you don't have to oh, if I can't sit through this 2-hour documentary, I'm not vegan. It's like, I watch 1 minute and I'm good. Yeah. So like, no, it's not like that. But like, if you can't watch it, ask yourself why. and
Yeah.
if you're not vegan and you can't watch that, ask yourself like, well, if I can't watch that, okay, don't traumatize yourself.
Yeah.
Think about if that's something you want to support.
Yeah.
Like financially and just like consuming the products. Like,
yeah.
do you really want to consume those products if you can't watch the production of it?
Yeah. Yeah, and then there are still considerations of various health factors, various privilege factors, but
oh, of course.
But yeah, what else was I gonna add? No, yeah, the thing about the gradual approach as well. Like we've discussed that's probably a preferable way even. Maybe than going cold turkey. Depending on who you are, it might,
I think just like if your veganism is something you're interested in, just do some research. I think there's like I don't know if it's just UK, but I think the website's about like the 30-day vegan challenge.
Okay.
There's like a website, I don't know the exact link, and I don't know if it's still active.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But it has like recipes, even has access to like people you can talk to who are vegan, who can kind of give advice. And it's just like, see if you can go vegan for 30 days and see what you learn from it.
Yeah.
The vegan 30-day challenge has like resources to help you and educate you about it.
Yeah, and
so just try. And there's you have nothing to lose, but you have a lot to gain.
Yeah. And there's a lot of resources on dietary stuff. Just do some Google searches. That helps me, be smart about it because
check the sources. If you're reading is veganism healthy but it comes from like a dairy industry, they're probably biased.
Yeah.
But if it comes from like a very pro-vegan website, that might be biased too.
Yeah.
So try it.
And the research from what I've seen is actually kind of controversial. So I don't seek to make any claims of knowledge here, but I think it's up to you. See if it see if it kind of works. But yeah,
just is research and just I think education is valuable and really important.
Yeah.
So you should have knowledge of what you're paying for and what goes into the production.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, just try and research and see what happens.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This has been Shawn. Have a wonderful evening.